Hello. Regarding the situation that had happened to the participant of the international project Creative Society in the Chelyabinsk region, I consider it my professional and moral duty to express my opinion on the situation itself and the resolution of the magistrate judge Pridannikov of the Judicial District Number 1 of the city of Plast, Chelyabinsk region, on the case of administrative offense number 3-148/2023. Why can I talk about it? Participants of the Creative Society project are people from over 180 countries. The case of an administrative offense, which will be discussed further, was reviewed in the Chelyabinsk region, that is, within the jurisdiction of a particular country. But, guided by generally recognized principles and norms of international law, such as equality before the courts, a fair and public hearing by a competent, independent, and impartial tribunal established by law, I, just like other legal professionals around the world, have every right to express my opinion on this case. So, here are the facts of the case. The participant of the Creative Society project in Plast city, Chelyabinsk region, is accused of illegal missionary activity, Part 4, Article 5.26 of the Code of Administrative Offenses of the Russian Federation. Allegedly, she distributed printed materials of the allegedly religious movement Allatra and the Creative Society project, which, according to the court, is supposedly a new religious movement with signs of syncretic cult. In my opinion, the conclusions reached by Judge Pridannikov in the July 14, 2023 ruling are not substantiated by the case materials and were not established during the court proceedings. Let's consider the merits of the case. According to the case file, on May 4, 2023, a local police unit received a complaint from a female civilian born in 1947. The complainant was given two brochures, Global Project Creative Society, at around 1 p.m. at a local store Mars. She requested to investigate that. On the basis of this statement, the police initiated an investigation, as a result of which the claimant indicated that no unlawful acts had been committed against her. However, the district police officer Angelina Paderina compiled an administrative offense report of illegal missionary activity. In preparation of the protocol on the administrative violation, the district officer Angelina Paderina refers to the report number 35 of May 22, 2023 of ANO, Center for Cultural and Religious Studies, Socio-Political Technologies and Educational Programs, signed by the director Shchetinina, which states that allegedly Allatra is considered a new religious movement with signs of a syncretic cult, and the marker of Allatra, among others, are the brochures of the Creative Society project, and their distribution carries destructive and legal risks. It should be noted that the message itself does not contain any substantiated conclusions. In her message, Ms. Shchetinina refers to the attempts to build an alternative state when she talks about the destructive nature of the movement. I quote, "As soon as the majority of active voters, 51%, support the Creative Society and formulate a demand, the 8 pillars of the Creative Society can be implemented on the legal level. At this stage, it is necessary to introduce an electoral platform as an effective tool of self-governance in society." Let's consider the following. If we are guided by such logic, it will turn out, for example, that the president who has won the election by the majority of active voters is carrying out destructive activities and has built a state in the state. Or, for example, all legal works in which it is proposed to improve certain legal regulations or rules, system, according to the opinion of Ms. Shchetinina, are also destructive. Please note that such a message from Ms. Shchetinina Yelizaveta is not an expert opinion. No examinations regarding the administrative offense were conducted during the investigation and review of this case. There are numerous violations of substantive and procedural law in this case. It is essential that all details of this case be reviewed and opinions be expressed by lawyers, legal experts, law enforcement officers, experts, and other specialists from the international community. Since Creative Society is an international project, the outcome of this case directly affects the possibility of its implementation. For example, the possibility of providing safe and comfortable living conditions for every person worldwide. The activities within the framework of the Creative Society project are international and aimed at fully realizing the rights and freedoms of every individual in the world. The project aims to transition to a new creative format of society worldwide in the shortest possible time through lawful and peaceful means, where a person's life is of the utmost value. The Creative Society project addresses various socially significant issues such as economy, ecology, climate, societal development, human rights, and other topics through interdisciplinary research. It is crucial to emphasize that the Creative Society project is in no way aimed at overthrowing, countering, or interfering with the activities of existing authorities. It does not infringe upon state sovereignty, territorial integrity, and constitutional structure, nor does it entail any other unlawful actions. The Creative Society is not an organization and does not engage in religious activities. The participation of the Creative Society members in conferences with topics such as Global Crisis, Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad, Global Crisis, the Mission of the Chosen People, Global Crisis, Who is Jesus Christ to us, does not indicate the religious nature of the Creative Society. Conversely, it would be just as incorrect to consider the Center for Cultural Religious Studies, Socio-Political Technologies and Educational Programs as a religious organization solely based on the inclusion of the word religious in its name. Returning to the judicial proceedings, people have the right to know in detail about the violations, in this case, the individuals obstructing the establishment of the Creative Society, and even those behind such actions. Now I propose focusing on one of the key aspects of this case through the lens of those mentioned above universally recognized international principles: equality before the courts and the right to a fair and public hearing by a competent, independent, and impartial tribunal established by law. On July 14, 2023, Judge Pridannikov of Judicial District No. 1 in Chelyabinsk region issued a ruling finding a participant of the Creative Society project guilty of committing an administrative offense under Part 4 of Article 5.26 of the Russian Code of Administrative Offenses, and imposed an administrative fine of 25,000 rubles. Part 4 of Article 5.26 of the CAO of Russian Federation imposes administrative liability for engaging in missionary activities in violation of legislation on freedom of conscience, freedom of religion, and religious associations. To establish the elements of the administrative offense under Part 4 of Article 5.26 of the CAO of Russian Federation, in accordance with procedural legislation, the judge had to determine the presence or absence of the administrative offense based on evidence, including the protocol of the administrative offense, testimonies of witnesses, expert conclusions, and other relevant information. Furthermore, the judge had to assess the evidence based on a comprehensive, complete, and objective examination of all circumstances of the case as a whole. No evidence should have a predetermined force or weight. However, did Judge Pridannikov adhere to these procedural norms when making a decision in this case? Let's take a look. According to Article 24.1 of the Federal Law on Freedom of Conscience and Religious Associations, one of the main characteristics of missionary activities is that a religious association carries them out. To establish this characteristic, the characteristic of a religious association, an examination is required. The defense of the Creative Society participant requested to conduct such an examination. However, Judge Pridannikov denied the defense's request for a comprehensive religious studies and psycholinguistic examination. Also, Judge Pridannikov did not accept as evidence on the part of the defense the scientific and legal determination from a specialist number 155-PE/2019 of the non-governmental educational private institution Institute of Forensic Expertise and Criminology, dated May 30th, 2019. The refusal is motivated by the fact that, I quote, "It was conducted by the candidate of Judicial Sciences Kuznetsov, who has no knowledge and experience in the field of religious studies." However, the Judge Pridannikov made the decision to find the Creative Society participants guilty, taking into consideration the statements made by Shetinina Yelizaveta, which, as previously mentioned, is not an expert in religious study determination. The court concludes that Shetinina's statement is not an expert determination. However, according to Part 1, Part 2 of Article 26.2 of the Code of Administrative Offenses of the Russian Federation, it falls under one of the types of evidence. However, such a conclusion by the judge does not negate the necessity of conducting a proper expert examination to render a lawful decision. In this case, we have considered only one part of the judicial process, namely the conduct of an expert examination, which was a necessary procedural step to establish the case's circumstances objectively. As we can see, there is a clear violation of the fundamental and universally recognized principle of equality. Article 14, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Both plaintiff and defendant must have an equal opportunity to present their arguments in the conditions which do not undermine the position of the other party. This principle is one of the constituents of the right to a fair trial, which is reciprocal to the principle of equality before the court. This principle was violated by the Judge Pridannikov. We've considered only one violation in this case. Now, I would like to appeal to the colleagues and experts in the judiciary system of the world, proponents of the human rights, advocates, judges, assistants, secretaries, prosecutors, lawyers, notaries, police officers, scientists, professors, masters, teachers, and students of law schools. Once, you have chosen the path of protecting human rights because you have disagreed with the injustices and lawlessness prevalent in this consumer-oriented format, where human rights are constantly violated each day. Many of you, of course, have defended a lot of people during your career and protected the rights of many people. But right now, we're not merely talking about one person, a participant of the Creative Society project, but about all humanity. Because Creative Society is a universal project, and an illegal case against its participant is a case against all humanity, against our future, and against every one of us. And this is the time for us, professionals, to defend ourselves and people of the world, because we all want to live in a fair and equal society. This is the duty of every one of us as a human. We should not keep quiet. Every professional can express their opinion regarding this case in accordance with international principles, equality, and fairness. If we don't defend human rights, then who will?